Now, I know Conestoga is not in either of your ridings.
Well, partly in
but
my
it's,
riding.
It's partly in your riding?
Yeah, they have a Guelph campus. Yep.
Oh, they've got a Guelph campus. That's right.
do,
Okay.
yeah.
They've got 30,000 foreign students. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, I think that's too high, and I think most of the colleges sector would agree. The unintended consequence of the Ford government vastly underfunding our post-secondary sector is they desperately had to find revenue somehow. They went after international students. One of the unintended consequences of that, making the housing crisis worse. I mean, there's some infamous stories in Guelph of 30, 40 students lined up to view one highly overpriced apartment. People are so desperate to get housing. So, you know what? The Ford government, they've made the housing crisis worse because they made the post-secondary budget crisis worse.
Western is in London. You represent London. Huron University College is in London. You represent London.
Fanshawe.
Fanshawe, of course, yeah. We've heard lots of stories about foreign students packing 10, 15 people into a single apartment because that's all they can get. Do you hear those stories?
Yeah, and actually there was a very tragic incident in London of some international students who were in an unregulated, very unsafe rooming house, essentially, without the proper exits, and they died in a fire. It is shameful what has happened in our system, but let's not forget that when the Ford government came in and decided to reduce tuition and then freeze tuition, it created what has now become almost a $2 billion revenue hole for colleges and universities. And Ford was happy to encourage colleges and universities to make up for that loss of revenue with international student tuition. You know, he opened the door to more of these public-private partnerships. There were 6 when he was elected, which were supposed to be phased out. There's now 15 of those among our 24 colleges. And he actively encouraged institutions to deal with years of underfunding, the loss of tuition dollars, by aggressive recruitment of international students.
Well, this does raise a question on the other side of the coin, which is, since we're not getting the provincial funding that everybody around this table seems to think we need, since the number of foreign students is going to be cut back and therefore that revenue is going to be denied, since tuition is still going to be frozen for the next 3 years, so there's going to be no uptick in revenue there, do we have to look at other more radical solutions? As in, Adil Shamji, do we have to close some colleges and universities because they're no longer sustainable under the current funding situation?
I would certainly hope not. I mean, if you look back on this province's proud history, we have been at the forefront of research, innovation, development. Our colleges and universities used to be the economic engine and powerhouse of our province and of the country. We need to be leaning into that. We need to be investing in that. Education always provides a return on investment. And as we see an affordability crisis, a labor market shortage, the solution to that isn't in education, is not in shortchanging the education of future generations. The reality is that the formula is very clear. We know exactly how the post-secondary sector was performing before Doug Ford, and we can see what it's doing after Doug Ford. Cutting OSAP, cutting operating budgets, capping the number of students that are getting funded.
Well, let me jump in here, because even when Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne were running the show, Liberal governments, Ontario was still 10th out of 10, weren't they? Or maybe
briefly 9th under McGuinty, but
briefly 9th.
But the freeze on new money to institutions started in 2014. It did start under Wynne.
Which was under the
Wynne
Liberals.
government preferred to spend money on students than on institutions.